to the Metaverse Insiders interview series. My name is Josh, and in today's episode, we talk to David Palmer, the blockchain lead at Vodafone. In this interview, we discuss Vodafone's plans for the future of the metaverse. So, David, to resume our conversation, it's an exciting time that we're living in, being able to project the future of the space and help pave its trajectory. It's never been a more pressing matter. So, could you please walk us through some of the projects that you're currently working on? And is there anything exciting that you have in the pipeline?
So one we've mentioned is the Metaverse showroom. That's also linked with another project, which is about using the phone number as the interoperable identity. So this is something I was going on about last year in a big way, but it tackles a few things. One of them is, policing the metaverse, right, or governing the metaverse, and the other one is about interoperability. And so the virtual showroom, I think we've spoken about already. I think it's got a good business case to it. But the phone number as the interoperable identity covers a number of things. So number one, it allows you to interoperate because the identity is there, and having a virtual phone number or a phone number as the identity also allows you to trace activity back to a person or a person who belongs to an organization. Right, so it allows the trace back, and that is part of what we need to look at if you're going to contract in the metaverse, and you're going to be able to buy land, and you're going to be able to get mortgages on those land, and you're going to get finance, and you're going to be able to work and earn money and all the rest of it. You need some governance, right? You need jurisdiction. You need the ability to legally enter into contracts, and you need to fulfill things like KYC and AML and all these things. So because the phone number in most cases already have that behind it, using the phone number as the ID would allow us to kickstart the knowing who it is and having some traceability, but also interoperability, right? So you can have the concept of the phone numbers and reusing the roaming network we have now, where people are consuming data, etc. So I think there's immense potential with that. So those are the two main ones.
That's very interesting. I really like the idea of using actual phone numbers as an ID, almost like a domain key. So this must incorporate blockchain technology. Could you walk us through the necessity of this technology and whether or not you'll be looking to utilize it? It would drastically improve safeguarding and, as mentioned before, that trust in transaction.
I think you need to. So there is a roaming network that exists at the moment which could kickstart this. But I think going forwards, having that, if you want that identity to be self-sovereign, then obviously the blockchain lends itself to to driving the identity to the person, and making things like the phone number a verifiable credential along with other credentials, where you can have those automated experiences. Because another thing we got to think about if we take a step back is that a lot of the processes we have now are a legacy from the Victorian age, right, where essentially you signed your name on a document that someone could look at to verify your identity, or you have a utility bill to verify your address, or a paper written reference or a paper certificate to verify your work experience or your qualifications. And actually, in a world now where all of the systems that those verifications are logged on are digital, it makes no sense, right? And it's a legacy. It's a legacy from the past. But in the metaverse, you won't have that. You're not going to have someone who can, how are you going to get a paper document in there, right? You're not going to have paper documents. So you need to move to a position where your identity can be verified automatically, and your credentials can be verified automatically. So it's a change of process, right? So if you have the concept of passport control in the metaverse, then it's going to be automated. Your travel, your metaverse travel documentation or credential will be issued by a trusted issuer, and it can be automatically verified under your control, right? And the same for utility bills, credit scores, other things. They will be completely digital, right? So you go to the concept of digital native identity, digital native credentials, identity credentials, and digital tools to verify those credentials. And I think blockchain and some of the work's being done with DIDs and verifiable credentials in the WC3 standards are a good way forwards with that. Problem is that they haven't got adoption. And that's why I think the mobile phone and things like Mobile Connect and some of the technologies there that do have adoption can allow these things to be kickstarted.
1, 2, 1, 2. Fantastic. As we can't necessarily bring physical documents into the metaverse, do you believe that dynamic NFTs would have utility in this respect for documentation? Because being tied into a phone number, as you said, could be utilized for university certificates all the way to train certificates. The possibilities are quite limitless.
So I believe NFTs, we're only beginning to see the potential of what NFTs can do. If you look at NFT ticketing, yeah, absolutely, right. Yeah, and the beauty of it can cross real world and virtual world experiences. In fact, maybe NFT is a ticket, that you buy in the real world that can take you to the virtual world, and vice versa. So I think NFT for ticketing, NFT for other types of ownership, so card documents, NFTs for education certificates, etc. Yeah, absolutely. The NFT, I believe, will be a key way of storing, owning, and porting assets across the metaverse and real worlds, because it's that bridge. It's the logical bridge. So I think it will be big. I believe tokenization in general will be important as well. But I think where we've maybe gone wrong is that is that these things will not exist in isolation. So you can't have a metaverse which gives you a deed to a piece of land in the NFT that gives you a deed to a piece of land in the metaverse, but with no recourse to land registry in the country, especially if you're buying 101 Park Lane or Buckingham Palace. I think trademarks and other rights will have something to do with that. So I think that you got to be cognizant of the real world and things we have now. And it will be a mesh of all of them. For this thing really to take off, it's going to be a mesh of all of them. Will social media as we know it, Web 2, exist in the metaverse? Yes. Will Web 3 exist in the metaverse? Yes. Will big companies and global corporations be there? Yes. Will brands be there? Yes. Will new brands be there? Yes. Will new businesses be there? Yes. So it all comes together. And that is what's so exciting about it, right? Who the winners and losers will be, we don't know. But I believe all the players will be there and will need to be there for the adoption to take place.
Oh, for sure. I reckon the brands or companies nowadays that aren't beginning to look into the metaverse will quite frankly be left behind. Because there's so much work going on currently that, generally speaking, isn't too well known about. And it's so interesting to see how far we have come in such a short period of time, and how our ideologies of what it will be have evolved into what it is now. Because this has changed throughout the years, even in the short period of time where the metaverse has been discussed. Maybe even the next few years, that whole ideology will change again. And that's so interesting to see how this evolution occurs.
No, absolutely. And the question, have we been sleepwalking towards the metaverse without knowing it? Because last year, it's so important, 2022 and 2023, night and day. Part of the same journey, but night and day. Last year, you're thinking, okay, is the metaverse the next iteration of the internet? Yes, we're going to replace it. Now, no, it's an evolution, right? It's not a replacement, it's an evolution of the internet. We will build on it, and it will evolve, right? And it's not, and I think that's so important, so maybe the steps to get to the metaverse have been in place for a long time. Web3 being part of them, Web2 being part of them. I think a lot of the immersive technologies have been there for a while, but now we're getting big investment in there. And there's been so much talk recently. Disney are disbanding their metaverse divisions, and Meta are scaling down their investment, etc. But all of this at a time where you've had two major factors. One are the global macroeconomic conditions, which are actually making squeezing capital and making investment more scarce everywhere, right? So there's those conditions have a lot to do with it. But the other side is that now we've got this headline called AI, which is the big headline that we had for Metaverse last year, and there's a lot of investment going in there. But I think it's the best thing. These two things are the best things for the metaverse because, you're having the ability now for people to really focus without the hype on value add, and get their heads down and really shape, things that add value and that can be launched and, without the pressure. And I think that's massive. And it goes to the question of, will the metaverse come about because of startups, or will it come about because of big corporations? I said before, I think they'll both be there, but I think startups will have a big role to play.
Could you potentially talk to me about some collaborations that you have with different companies?
So we can't maybe go into the collaborations. All I can say is that we're doing with the Metaverse showroom, a big collaboration which involves a global bank, a global technology company, ourselves, and a global car manufacturer.
Yeah, that's fine. Completely understand. To wrap up our conversation, can you tell us about what's coming for Vodafone in the next couple of years and what you envision to come in the next few years as well within the metaverse as a whole?
So one is that there's a transition from telco to techco, right? And as with other companies, there's a movement to become a technology company, which I think is amazing. Also, becoming a platform organization is amazing. What I can say is that you'll hear more from the digital asset broker, which is the economy of things platform, which has a sort of blockchain underpinning, and of course we're using this infrastructure to explore the metaverse of things. And I think you'll see a lot more mixed reality, proof of concepts, proofs of values, a lot more. Maybe announcements on the way that communication can be made. And of course, looking at this whole phone number and how that can maybe provide that infrastructure and traceability, for the metaverse, which I think is at the infrastructure level. But I mean, I can't speak for all of it. There's a guy called Tom Griffiths who's leading a lot of the innovation on that, and there's some great stuff happening. But I think you'll hear a lot more.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, David. Really appreciate that. Had a great conversation and hope you enjoyed it as well.
I did. Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap for part 2 of our conversation with David Palmer, the blockchain lead at Vodafone. Be sure to stay tuned for weekly updates in the industry and content covering all things metaverse. Follow the Metaverse Insider on Twitter and LinkedIn and visit metaverseinsider.tech for all our content. Thank you for joining us. Until next time.